The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good morning, Tampa. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, you know what? Yesterday, if you are a football fan, you had to love yesterday. I did not have what's called a horse in the race. I am a Miami Dolphins and a Dallas Cowboy fan. I really didn't care who won yesterday. I just wanted to watch good football. And, hey, we even got an extra bonus. So let's get to today's show. Maybe just a few minutes on the Super Bowl yesterday, because it only happens once a year. Let me welcome you to our expert. And I do mean our expert, Provise Wealth Management, Ray Ferrara. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve. And yes, the Super Bowl was an interesting game. Actually, it was very boring in the first half with lots of mistakes. And then, of course, the comeback by Kansas City to tie the score up in the last play of regulation. And congratulations to them. Although I'm glad we won't see Taylor Swift and Kelsey for another 6 months anyway.
Yes. Yes. So what did you think of the commercials?
You know, I wasn't overly impressed with the
either.
commercials there. They just didn't jump out at me, to tell you the truth. I'm a great caveman fan from back 25 years ago for Geico. I thought that the commercial that they did right at the beginning on the set with the football announcers, with the caveman storming off, I couldn't quit laughing. But the rest of them, didn't strike me very well. Although I'll tell you what, the real winners on the ads, I think, were the advertisers that had signed up for the post-game shows, because they got a cheaper rate than all of those folks that did the commercials during the game. And because of overtime, all those post-game show commercials got shown. And so they got great exposure for a very cheap price. So
oh, no kidding.
Kudos to them. Steve, one of the interesting things about the Super Bowl is, over the years, there's a theory that says that if a team from the NFC or a old NFL team, National Football League team, there would be somebody like the Pittsburgh Pirates that were in the NFL and are now over in the AFC. If an NFC team or an old NFL team wins the Super Bowl, it's going to be an up year in the market. So if you are a forecaster, obviously with Kansas City winning, bad news. Now, in fairness, Kansas City won last year and the market was up 22%. So right. It's a nice theory, but it obviously doesn't hold all the time.
Well, to show you how money changes, we've talked on the show before. I was a sports agent for many years, and back in the probably late 1998, 99, I remember when a commercial for the Super Bowl was right at $900,000. And we thought, wow, how could that I mean, how could a $900,000 for a 30-second commercial? Well, now I heard last night a 30-second commercial is $7 million.
Yeah, and then there was the company, I think it was home.com, that had three of them. So just imagine the money that they spent.
I wonder if they got a discount, right?
Perhaps so.
Well, Ray, listen, we've been doing this show several years now, and people know about the show. But last week alone, I got 3 new text messages telling me how much they enjoy the wealth management show, and they just found it for the first time. So let's tell people about Provise Wealth Management.
So Provise Management Group is a financial planning firm based in Clearwater, Florida, and with an office in Tampa. We are a financial planning firm first and foremost, as virtually all of our initial new clients end up with some type of a written financial plan. For some, it could be as simple as bullets on one page, and for others, it could be a rather lengthy document, depending upon people's situation. And the reason we stress financial planning is most people say they're financial planners, but really what they want to do is just invest the money. And clearly, we're investing a lot of money on behalf of our 1,100 clients scattered over 34 states, because we're managing about $1.8 billion and approaching that $2 billion mark. But we see investing as a subset of financial planning, which includes retirement planning, risk management, estate planning, education planning, budgeting. The list goes on. We've got 14 fantastic advisors who are certified financial planners, which means we are always working with your best interest first and foremost as a fiduciary. And we offer a 1-hour free consultation in either our 2 offices or by Zoom if that is more convenient. And hope that people after listening to the show will give us a call at the number that's running across the bottom from time to time. But that number is 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022.
Ray, one of the things that tells me about how successful your company is you've got so many people outside the area that you represent, which means referrals. You've been referred, and that is an accomplishment in your business, because people, they have to trust you. And it just shows you that how satisfied your clients are with your service.
Well, I'd like to think so. And, the referrals are certainly one thing that you don't get if you don't have satisfied clients or have worked with professionals that are satisfied with the work we've done for their clients. But one of the statistics of which we are most proud, Steve, is that year over year, we have a very high retention ratio versus the industry, running about 97% year over year. And that includes people who pass away, et cetera. So in an industry where retaining something in the high 80s is considered good. So we must be doing something right, and delighted to be able to serve the many great clients that we have had over our almost 38 years in business.
Well, we sure try to touch on all the events that are going on in the financial world. Last month, the S&P 500 reached an all-time high, and it's now cracked 5,000. What is this going to mean for investors, Ray?
Well, I want to caution investors. 5,000 is just a number. It's no more important than 4,999, and it's no more important than 5,001. It is a psychological point. to break through one of those $1,000 barriers like that with the S&P 500. But from a market standpoint, it really doesn't mean that the market is necessarily going to continue to go up. In fact, there are those who would argue that today the market is overvalued, selling at about 21 times earnings, where historically it would sell at about 17 times. But the market is forward-looking in its ability to see 6, 8, 10 months into the future. And so I would say to you that the market believes that as the Fed begins to reduce interest rates later this year, and probably going to reduce it at least 2, maybe 3 times, that's going to buoy the market and help it. Although we've gotten a lot of good performance in just these first 5 weeks of the year already, I think you have to lower your expectations. Getting another 22% return like we did last year is unrealistic in my mind, at least at this point, unless earnings just are absolutely fantastic through the first part of this year. And while I think they'll be good, I don't think they're going to be absolutely fantastic, but I think they'll be good enough to help support the market and for us to have a positive year before it's all over. So 5,000 is a psychological number, doesn't mean anything else one way or the other, but it does feel good. So let's just enjoy it while it's there.
Ray, we get so many questions which we present to you during the show. People are still amazed, though, Ray, that they go to the grocery store, they go to the gas pumps, just everything. Everything is up, but all we hear about is how great the economy is doing now. And people go, I go in the grocery store. Something used to cost me $20, costs me $60 now. And people are just, they don't understand. And we touch on this on just about every show, but it seems like we get more and more letters each week asking the same question.
Well, certainly inflation over the last couple of years has been a real stickler and is what caused the Federal Reserve to begin raising interest rates 2 years ago in March. And a little bit of inflation is just like a little bit of salt on food. It can really make things taste good and feel good. But too much inflation means there are too many people chasing too few goods. And that's what we've seen. In the beginning, it was the supply issues that were out there that caused us to have some inflation. And then after the pandemic began to settle down, people started to buy a lot, and there was still very little supply. So things went down from there, or went up from there, excuse me. And now with the raising of interest rates, inflation is slowing. First time in a long time that it's been under 3% for the year, and at a high part of 9%. But the prices have stuck pretty well, except in the food and energy space, which are very volatile. And so, as you pointed out, and I comment all the time, it's hard to go to the grocery store and not walk out with $100 bill, being paid. And so people are feeling that. However, incomes have also risen over the past couple of years. That too is slowing down. But having done that, and people having saved a lot of money back during the pandemic because you couldn't go out and spend it anywhere, we've been able to keep the economy boosted. And what was thought to be something that would be impossible, and still yet to be seen, but that so-called soft landing. But this time a year ago, we thought for sure everybody thought there would be a recession. It didn't happen. If there's a recession now, it's not likely to happen until next year, 25. So there's a reason to be very optimistic, cautiously optimistic about the economy, about the market, and all of the things that are happening. Steve, we have almost the lowest unemployment ever in this country today. And we created lots of jobs last year. People are making money, they're spending money, and that's going to buoy the economy and hopefully lead to good things.
Well, Ray, you always make it sound like it's so positive, which we really appreciate. And you know what? I think people should look forward to this year as when it comes to the economy. Now, the House has created a commission which they're trying to find ways to reduce the national debt and fix Social Security. What are your thoughts on the outcome of this commission? Are they going to get anything accomplished this time?
Steve, it's interesting that they formed a commission in the House, which is controlled by the Republicans. And immediately the Democrats jumped on it and said, oh, they're trying to reduce Social Security. Well, that's not what the bill that authorized the commission says. It's a very difficult situation. Currently, there appears to be enough money in the trust fund to pay 100% of benefits through 2034, which is only 10 years from now. And then at that point, benefits would find that they might have to be cut because there would not be enough income coming in from tax revenue to continue to pay the benefits. So it's really very simple. You either have to raise more money, you either have to reduce benefits, or you have to increase the age at which people can begin taking Social Security. Those are the three simple solutions that that exist. The commission, however, could come up with some interesting ideas about how any of those three things are done. It would likely be phased in over a period of time. It wouldn't just happen overnight, and it would be virtually inconceivable that it would affect current Social Security beneficiaries and their benefits. The key is to how to sustain it into the future. So we'll have to see what happens, but I don't care what ideas come out of this commission, how good they might be, until we can have a bipartisan issue that can come forth, a solution that can come forth, or one party controls both houses of Congress and the White House. I just don't see how we're going to get this resolved anytime soon. And I suspect we'll be talking about it when the next presidential election comes around in 28. So I'm not as optimistic a person as I am. I'm not optimistic about this commission and any success in modifying Social Security to continue to strengthen it.
Well, looks like Governor DeSantis has suspended his presidential campaign. So it looks like it's going to be President Trump and Biden will be the nominees, I think. I don't know, after some of the information that's come out in the last week about Biden, I don't know. But what can investors expect from each one of them?
Well, there's a lot of different areas that each of them agree on, and there are an equal number that they disagree on. Clearly, if President Biden is reelected to a second term, the alternative energy sector will continue to be very strong. Solar, wind, geothermal. A lot of money will go in that direction. It's also safe to say that because of the bill that Biden and the Democrats passed, the so-called infrastructure bill, that they will continue to put a lot of money into that, which means construction companies will do well under a second term for President Biden. On the flip side, if former President Trump were to win a second term, almost the opposite would occur. We would actually find ourselves with him wanting to invest into the oil and gas industry, into the so-called dirty industries, as opposed to the clean industries that President Biden has espoused. You can also look for him to be very supportive of the automobile industry on a go-forward basis, and we saw his popularity amongst auto workers back during the strike, where recent polls have indicated that even though President Biden took a very firm hand in those talks, still 50% of the auto workers seem to be supporting Trump. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. We've got Nikki Haley probably losing in South Carolina in another couple of weeks, and then Trump will still be the presumptive nominee, but he really will be the nominee at that point. And you can look for him to begin attacking President Biden on an even more regular basis than he is now.
Well, the show always goes by so fast, Ray. One of the things I want to let our listeners and viewers know, you're having surgery tomorrow.
I am indeed.
Yes.
I'm having hip replacements. As we age, those body parts can wear out, and fortunately, the hip is one of those body parts that they can fix. So hopefully,
what's this going to do to your golf game, Ray?
Well, I'm going to beg for more strokes when I come back from playing, at least for a couple of weeks. The bets are always won on the first tee, Steve.
I hear you, bud. So let's give everybody your phone number and your website address.
You bet. First of all, everybody listening, we offer a 1-hour complimentary consultation in our Clearwater or Tampa office, or by Zoom if that's more convenient. Just a chance for you to get to know us and we get to know you better. So if you would like to take advantage of that, simply call our offices at 800-633-3049. That's 800-633-3049. And we'll be happy to have an opportunity to meet with you. Or if you want to learn more about us, go to the website, www.provise.com. And you can see it right there running across the bottom of the screen as we're talking. So as always, we welcome people to come learn more about us. And if you like what you see and hear, we'd be delighted to have you join our family of clients.
Ray, you're the best. You'll be back with us next week.
Yes, sir. We will be indeed. And I look forward to it. And all I can say is I hope I'm off the drugs, Steve, by then from the surgery.
We won't hold that against you. Hey, you're in our prayers, Ray.
Thank you very much, Steve. You have a great week and see you next Monday.
We're going to go to break. We come back. We've got our personal injury show. The ladies, are they good? You don't want to miss our next 25 minutes. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. I think I told you a couple weeks ago, my fiance was rear-ended, and I got to tell you, it has been a fiasco. It is so important when you're in an automobile accident or you have a slip and fall or other types of injuries, that you have a really good law firm representing you. And there's no excuses, because most injuries, when it comes to hiring a law firm, and they all kind of have to go by the same guidelines, is it's handled on a contingency basis, meaning that you don't have to write a check up front, and it's based on how successful they are with you. Well, we found two of the greatest personal injury attorneys, and I got to tell you that you don't want to miss this morning's show. We have the law office of Zervos and Calta. And I am telling you, I have learned more in the last 6 or 7 months about injuries and what your rights are. But the most important thing I've learned is, if you don't have a good law firm representing you, you've got to, because you've got to level the playing field, because these insurance companies have wonderful negotiators, and this is something you should never do on your own. We are so blessed to have both Lauren Coulter and Angela Zervos. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
The day after the Super Bowl,
Yeah, what a great game that was.
Go Chiefs.
was was that not a great game?
The end was phenomenal.
And then we get to come here the next day and spend the next 25 minutes talking about injuries. God, what when we have football, that's a game of injuries. But you know what? I got to tell you, I have learned more. I got to say, I am more versed and educated now about what to do if you're in an auto accident, if a slip and fall, because the way you explain things and you make it so easy to understand. Before we go any further, tell people about the firm.
Lord.
Okay. We are a small boutique firm. It's Angela and myself, and we have a support staff to help us out. But we only handle personal injury matters. We specialize in just personal injury, which includes motor vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, trucking accidents, pedestrian accidents, bicycle accidents, slip and fall, trip and fall, any sort of premise liability where you've been injured, dog bites, wrongful death, um, medical malpractice, anything where you've been hurt by the wrongdoing or negligent acts of someone else. That's what we do. We try all our own cases, Steve, which I think is real important in today's day. We don't bring in another attorney or refer the case to another attorney to try. Angela and I will be trying the case for you. We have the resources to do that. Albeit we are a small firm, we have the backing and the money to be able to afford to litigate our own cases, which is a big thing, because cases are expensive. A typical motor vehicle accident case could cost upwards of 50 grand to litigate. Those are all costs we lay out and get back at the end of the claim when you get a successful verdict.
So we had someone a couple of weeks ago ask if you do pharmaceutical litigation.
We dabble in that. I wouldn't say that's the mainstream of our practice. We certainly would entertain any case like that, but that's usually class action lawsuits, pharmaceutical litigation. So on those, we do work with other firms who have more cases, and it's more economically feasible to handle because of the experts that are involved. You get them involved on a bunch of cases as opposed to just one case, because typically when there's a drug, or there's side effects of a drug that we weren't warned about as consumers, those can be extremely expensive to litigate.
Angela, what are some of the things that most people don't know about a trial, and we cannot tell you when you're on a jury?
Well, Steve, this is one of the things I've noticed is attorneys don't really talk about this a whole lot when they're advertising, but I think it's very important for people out there to know that I'm going to say 99.9% of the time when a car accident case is litigated, and when I say litigated, I mean a lawsuit is filed and it's getting primed and prepped to go to court, where a jury is going to decide whether or not the person's injuries came from the accident, and whether or not the medical bills should be paid, and whether or not the plaintiff is entitled to pain and suffering money and future medical care. Those are the decisions that a jury has to make. And when they're sitting in the courtroom, they're sitting in the jury box, they see two sides. They see Lauren and I with our client on one side, and on the other side, they see a defense attorney and a person or persons. And that would be the driver of the at-fault vehicle and maybe the owner as well of the vehicle. What they don't see is an insurance adjuster sitting at that table. So the case would be, for instance, our client is Jane Doe. Jane Doe is suing John Smith. And the entire case goes forward. Witnesses are called, doctors are called, family members, friends, pictures of the accident are put up. We've got medical experts. The defense has medical experts. And in the end, the jury's got to put it all together and decide if the plaintiff was in fact hurt as a result of the accident and what amount of compensation they feel is just and fair. I will tell you that I think in my almost 30 years of having tried these types of cases, 90% of the time, the jury will come back with a question while they are deliberating. And that question is there car insurance here? They're not allowed to be told if there's car insurance.
Oh.
And so they see the defense sitting at the table, and if it's a little old man or a young driver, they just see that person, and they don't see the name of the insurance company anywhere in any of the documents. And that's because years and years and decades ago, the Florida legislature created what's called the non-joinder statute, which means that you can't tell the jury that there's insurance. Because if a jury thinks there's car insurance, they would be more prone, this is them and their infinite wisdom now, okay? Jury would be more prone to give the plaintiff money because, it's coming from the insurance company and they've gotten billions of dollars, so who cares? Which really is insulting to the jury, because the jury should be, jurors are smart enough. Whether there's insurance or non-insurance, they're able to take the facts that they have heard over the course of days and make the decision for themselves. And these being influenced by the fact that there's insurance, really, in my opinion, and I think Lauren agrees with me, is that it's pretty insulting. It was the insurance that lobbied this. They lobbied and lobbied and lobbied for this law because they thought that jurors weren't smart enough and they wouldn't get a fair trial. So I'm here to tell you, Lauren's here to tell you, that if you are picked for jury duty and you're sitting in that courtroom and you're sitting in that jury box for days and days and days, and you never hear State Farm, Progressive, Geico, Nationwide, Liberty Mutual, all of those, if you don't hear those names, doesn't mean there isn't insurance. 99.9% of the time, there's insurance on that other side. And you just don't know it, and we're not allowed to tell you about it because there's a fear that it will unduly influence the jury's decision-making process.
And the statute, Steve, really doesn't give any consideration to the fact that the jury may be prejudiced in the other way without knowing about the insurance. In other words, they see the young driver or the older man or the little old lady that drove the car that caused the accident, and that they don't want to hit them with a big verdict because they're afraid, well, how are they going to live? Where are they going to get the money from? Will they have to file bankruptcy? What about that prejudice where they don't award what should be awarded because they're fearful it's actually coming out of the pockets of the driver or the owner of the vehicle versus the insurance company?
You know, we just got another question just now under auto accidents. People want to know if the person at fault does not have auto insurance, is there any way to still go after them?
And
Yeah, well, I will tell you that technically the answer is yes. But I will also tell you that if people don't have insurance, it's usually due to financial reasons. If they purchase just the bare minimum in Florida and they don't have bodily injury liability, which we've talked before about, which is not required in Florida, which is absurd, really.
Yes.
And you're injured in an accident with this type of a driver who really has just the bare minimum, you're going to have a really, really hard time collecting from that person. So you're going to have an even harder time getting an attorney who's willing to take the case, which will have to file a lawsuit against that driver, then litigate the case in the same manner that it would be litigated as if there was an insurance company on the other side. So you still got to go through all the motions to get your judgment at the end. The judgment is a piece of paper that you get signed by the judge at the end of the trial that says, this person owes Steve this much money. So we would have to go through all of that, the expense of a trial, the time involved with the trial, and the chances of ever collecting on it, quite honestly, are probably slim to zero. So I would say that in answer to your viewer's question, the answer would be you'd probably not be successful in collecting, and you'd have a very hard time getting an attorney to spend that kind of time and money. I will say that there have been exceptions here. I will give you an example. This is actually a really funny story. Years ago, when I was in my 30s, I had a young girl who was hit significantly by a drunk driver. And she ended up having jaw injuries. She ended up having jaw surgery, and she was in her 20s. And the gentleman who had caused the accident was at the scene, not only drunk, but passing out business cards. That's how drunk he was. And he was an owner, very small owner, but still an owner of a chain, I will say, restaurant chain at the time. And he had a policy of insurance with Liberty Mutual, and it was $10,000. And they tried to throw that $10,000 at me and get my client to sign a release saying, we're done with him. I sent the check back for $10,000 and I sued him personally. And he ended up stroking a check out of his own pocket for $65,000 because he had money. He had money. So we took the $65,000 from him and we got $10,000 from his insurance company for a total settlement of $75,000. I mean, the guy wasn't a millionaire, but he was making some monthly, I don't want to say income, but he was getting some revenue from this business that he owned. So over, I would say, the last 20-something, 28 years, there have been 3 times that have actually, said this person's got assets, this person has money, and they're choosing not to buy good insurance. And so, Lauren and I sued them personally. But it's like I said, it's very rare. Usually people who have assets, who make good money, who have money, they want to protect those assets by buying good insurance. See somebody who has no liability, or the policy was canceled, or they have very, very little, it's usually because that's really only what they can afford.
And that's up to the attorney too, to do their backgrounds on the person. Angela and I, when we get a case, one of the first things we do is we do some research on the person who's at fault for the accident, Steve. So you look at the house they're in, you run how many cars they have, you see where they work, if they own any businesses, we run it through Sunbiz and see if they run any businesses. I had one where he had a limited liability policy. My client was really hurt. Our client was really hurt. And in doing my research, I found out he just sold a house and moved to Texas. So before he put that money down on another house, he wrote a check for more than his policy limits to compensate our client. So it happens. It's not often, but it can happen, and you have to do the research to find out if it's possible.
We just got another text in. Really enjoying your show. I am outraged. I had a wreck. It was the other person's fault. Why does my insurance company have to pay?
I'm going to tell you, I'm assuming that he's talking about your viewers talking about their medicals under their no fault, probably.
Probably, yes.
Probably. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, that's for your own protection. Because if we're driving around, Steve, and we have to rely on other people on the road, we have to rely on them having good insurance. God forbid we get hurt and we're transported by ambulance to a hospital. We want to make sure that those bills are paid. At least we have some level of coverage. And so in Florida, your insurance pays the first $10,000 in medicals, whether it's your fault or not your fault. That's the law. There's no getting around it. Health insurance doesn't pay first. It's your auto insurance. And so that is really for your own protection. Because if we didn't have that, we would have to rely on the person that hit us and hope, cross our fingers that, one, they paid their premiums over the last few months and the policy is still in effect. I will tell you the other reason I think that we have it set up that way is to protect the hospitals. The hospitals have lobbied long and hard on this. They're saying, listen, we've got people getting brought in by ambulance. We've got family members driving people in from the scene of a crash. And we want to make sure that our emergency room and our CT machines and our MRI machines are up and running, and we're going to get paid for treating these people. And so they pretty much are the ones that will take the majority of the PIP, or the no fault insurance that has been pretty much forced upon us by the legislature.
There's police reports are very important. I guess it's really important on who got the ticket. But can that be used in a trial?
No.
What?
No. There's no evidence of the police report. There's no evidence of who got a ticket. That's not permitted in a trial. That's why because they want to encourage, the theory behind that is they want to encourage people to be honest at the scene of the accident so that the officer can do a thorough and honest investigation. And if people knew that the information they're providing to the police officer could be used at trial, that would have a very chilling effect on what you tell the police officer. So the intent behind the legislature was to encourage people to be honest about how an accident happens at the scene of an accident. But that's why you're not allowed to use it at trial. So oftentimes, the defense is fighting liability, and we hear our clients say, wait a minute, what do you mean they're not admitting to it? They got the ticket. Their client got the ticket. Why are they fighting liability? Well, because they can, because evidence of the ticket is never told this to the jury. It's never shown to the jury.
So now when a new client comes to your office, they will sit down with one of you. Is that also the one that, if it has to go to trial, will be trying the case?
Steve, well, yeah. I mean, Lauren and I try cases together. And it's not because we can't do it individually. Before Lauren and I met, I've tried a lot of cases on my own. I was the only person sitting at the plaintiff's table with my client. And I will tell you that there's a disadvantage to that, to the client, because two heads are always better than one. So if it's Lauren's case, Lauren will be first chair and I'll be second chair. And if it's my case, and I'll be first chair and Lauren will be second chair. And what we do is we basically bounce ideas off of each other during the trial. If I'm standing and cross-examining a witness, Lauren will be sitting behind me at the table and be taking notes, making sure I didn't miss anything, and vice versa. It's an incredible amount of work getting ready for a trial, Steve. I will tell you, I think that it should be taken very seriously. I think that attorneys who are willing to take a case to trial really need to take it very seriously. And we don't see a lot of that. We see attorneys who have one trial after another, week after week, sometimes 2 weeks apart, and they just go and they just wing it. When Lauren and I are getting ready for a trial, I will tell you that I lose at least 6 pounds from not eating. I don't sleep. It's a whole lot of reading, preparing for not just what we do, but anticipating what the defense is going to do and how are we going to handle that at that time. And so, it's not a joke where our clients are relying on us, and we've got to put in the time. We've got to prepare as if it were our mother's case. You've got to take these things very seriously. It's an incredible amount of work. So it's almost too much for one person. It really is.
How did I know you were going to say this? Believe it or not, we've only got a few minutes left. Let's give everybody your phone number and your website.
Phone number 727-937-3171. Main office is Tarpon Springs. We have offices in Spring Hill, Clearwater, and St. Pete as well. We travel anywhere within the state of Florida for a case. And our website is www.zergosinjurylaw.com.
You ladies are the best. We are so blessed to have both of you. You'll be back the end of this next week.
Yes, that means a lot, Steve, because I know you've had other personal injury attorneys on here. So that really means a lot. You
guys are amazing. We'll see you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Yes, you will.
Thanks, Angela.
Have a good week.
Thanks, Lauren. They are incredible attorneys. If you or a family member or a friend need a personal injury attorney, they are so good at what they do. Hey, that's it for us this week. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.